This is CBC Vancouver News.
RCMP have identified a man who was shot and killed in the parkade of a Burnaby shopping plaza yesterday, but no word yet if the shooting is related to the ongoing Lower Mainland gang conflict. The threat of wildfires continue to upend the lives of residents well into September, as new evacuation orders are issued for multiple regions across BC. A group of BC migrants joined thousands of demonstrators across the country, renewing calls for improved rights and protections.
We want them to talk about migrant workers' status for all now.
It comes on the eve of Parliament's return to session. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Evacuation orders were issued for multiple regions across BC today as wildfires continue to upend the lives of residents well into September. The orders cover parts of central BC, the Sunshine Coast, and the Okanagan region, which has already seen devastating fires this year. The Sunshine Coast Regional District has declared a local state of emergency due to the Clahome Lake wildfire, with an expanded evacuation order now covering 10 properties. There are a few cabins in the area, but officials are particularly concerned over the nearby BC Hydro power plants. And an evacuation order has also been issued by Caribou Regional District in central BC for 28 properties in the Horn Lake area. The BC Wildfire Service says fire behavior on the nearby Hell Raving Creek fire has worsened due to strong winds. More evacuation orders were also issued today near Peachland as the Glen Lake wildfire threatens a handful of properties in the central Okanagan region. That fire is suspected to be human-caused. Homicide investigators have identified the Abbotsford man shot and killed in a parkade of a shopping plaza in Burnaby yesterday afternoon as 29-year-old Gagandeep Sandhu. Police say early evidence suggests the killing was targeted. RCMP responded to reports of gunshots shortly after 5 o'clock Saturday evening near Lougheed Shopping Centre. Sandhu was found dead inside a vehicle in an underground parkade. Soon after, RCMP received a report of a black Honda Pilot SUV on fire near Greenwood Street and Bainbridge Avenue, about 10 minutes west of the shooting. Mounties say the vehicle fire could be linked to the shooting. IHIT has not confirmed if the shooting is believed to be related to the ongoing Lower Mainland gang conflict. And on Vancouver Island, 2 men are in hospital with serious injuries after a stabbing in Souk last night. RCMP were called to the 6600 block of Souk Road just after 6 o'clock for a report of a man who had been stabbed. When they arrived, they found 2 victims. The suspect, a 21-year-old man, was found nearby and arrested. Police believe it is an isolated incident and there doesn't appear to be further risk to the public. Anyone with information is asked to call RCMP. A BC NDP MLA has been turfed by the party's ranks. Premier David Eby says MLA Adam Walker, who had served as the parliamentary secretary for the sustainable economy up until today, was dismissed as a result of an internal investigation sparked by an unspecified human resources complaint. In a statement, the premier says this thorough investigation found misconduct on the part of MLA Walker. As a result, Mr. Walker will no longer be a member of the government caucus and he will no longer be a parliamentary secretary. Walker was elected to the provincial legislature 4 years ago to represent the riding of Parksville-Qualicum. His dismissal from the NDP caucus leaves the governing party with 56 seats in the provincial legislature. The federal government is extending the deadline for its small business pandemic loan, but as David Ball reports, many BC retailers say the government's gesture has fallen short.
I've been fighting lately to save my business, and it's just because of various economic conditions.
North Vancouver's Tamara Nowakowski says her Delish General Store is on the brink, thanks to inflation, lower sales, and a federal loan deadline in December. She owes Ottawa about $50,000. So this week, she was relieved when Ottawa extended the deadline to have a third of her debt forgiven.
And then I read that it was 2 weeks, and I thought, what good does that do anybody in my situation? It's just another bucket of water out of the sinking ship.
Through the pandemic, Ottawa loaned small businesses $49 billion. It helped thousands survive the pandemic slump. But the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses says 4 in every 5 BC borrowers have not repaid.
It seems they've really missed the point of what small businesses are struggling with the most. Our communities benefit from their bravery and from their hard work, and it's a slap in the face to be told that it just wasn't enough and that it's not going to cut it in time. So we hope that the government does extend the deadline for the forgivable portion of the loan so that these small business owners can make ends meet and continue to survive.
Canada's Finance Ministry says it extended the full repayment by 3 years. It's just the forgivable third that's due January 18th. But few say they can afford to lose up to $20,000 they were told was free.
Let's commit to making a certain amount of payments every month to show good faith and to show that you're chipping away at that. That would be such a relief for so many of us. I think it would save some businesses from going under. I have never been more at risk of going under, and it's never been a closer reality. I could go either way. I think it's just a matter of me making a very personal decision. And I'm not prepared to make that decision yet.
David Ball, CBC News, Vancouver.
Today, dozens of BC migrants and supporters joined protesters in cities across Canada, renewing calls for improved rights and protections for migrant workers and undocumented people. Our Saurabh Sandhu spoke with demonstrators marching through downtown Vancouver today, demanding immediate change.
The call for change is growing louder. Waishan Kwa is a spokesperson for Migrant Students United at SFU. He says in 2021, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau promised a new regularization program for undocumented people, migrant students, workers, and refugees. 2 years later, advocates say no program has been implemented.
A lot of us here are, international students, migrant workers, farm workers, care workers, and we're all in this immigration system together.
Advocates say because of their temporary immigration status, thousands of migrants in Canada suffer from poverty and exploitation, living here amid constant fear of detention and deportation, unsafe living and working conditions, and a lack of access to adequate health care.
Being here without immigration status means not being able to access health care, means not being able to access education, it means not being able to access employment standards, and it means living in fear of detention and deportation every day.
The renewed call for change comes one day before Parliament is set to reconvene. For demonstrators, it's a time to remind the Prime Minister to follow through on his promise and make migrant issues a priority.
Tomorrow, they're going back to the cabinet, and then they're going to talk about this. We want them to talk about migrant workers' status for all now.
The countrywide demonstrations come after Canada's temporary foreign worker program was labelled a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery by a United Nations official earlier this month. According to advocates, there are currently about 1.7 million people in Canada who are on temporary permits.
Agriculture production, industrial production, transportation, all the logistic industry, taxis, Uber, all these, they are worked mostly by migrants, even healthcare workers.
Advocates say they have waited long enough. It's time for government to act swiftly and implement permanent change.
No more programs, no more pilots. We want status for all immediately.
Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
And in Victoria, equal rights protesters and migrant workers rallied outside the BC legislature as Canadian MPs get set to return to Parliament tomorrow.
What do we want? What do we want?
The group is calling on the Prime Minister to make good on a pledge to give permanent resident status to migrant workers and refugees. They say changing legislation will improve working conditions for migrants and allow them to grow deeper roots in Canada and participate more fully in society. A third minor earthquake has struck the BC coast today near Port Hardy. It followed 2 other earthquakes recorded in the same area overnight.
These are occurring about 200 kilometers offshore, 175 to 200 kilometers off the north coast of Vancouver Island.
Here's the approximate location where the quakes hit. Earthquakes Canada says a 4.0 magnitude quake was registered around 8:20 this morning. 4 hours earlier, a 5.5 magnitude quake hit the same area, and about an hour and a half before that, a 4.2 magnitude earthquake. Earthquakes Canada says it is currently monitoring a swarm of earthquakes far off the coast of northern Vancouver Island. There are no reports of any damage from today's quakes, and the agency says no tsunami is expected. A Surrey family farm gave away thousands of free spuds this afternoon. The event, labeled Ugly Potato Day, aims to take a bite out of food insecurity and reduce food waste by giving out hundreds of pounds of potatoes and other vegetables to the community. As Yasmin Gandam reports, the event continues to grow significantly as more people try to tackle rising inflation.
Here, like that.
Right on.
Yeah, maybe like a duck.
Potatoes like this one up for grabs for free at the Ugly Potato Day, bringing in over 5,000 people. Tyler Heppel of Heppel's Farm says although the event is fun for the whole family, to him it's important as a farmer to eliminate waste.
People are really hurting right now with the prices of everything and having to decide if they can really feed their family 3 meals a day. And at the same time, we do this to show people that it doesn't matter what a vegetable looks like, it can still be nutritious and delicious.
The farm has partnered with the Greater Vancouver Food Bank for the event. Proceeds from merchandise like t-shirts and hats go towards the organization.
Try and make sure that that excess food gets out to people in need. And there's a huge amount of food out there, and it's not waste food. And I want to try and make sure we don't say waste food. This is perfectly good, nutritious food. It's just excess food now.
This is the 11th time Heppel's has put on Ugly Potato Day, but it's been the largest turnout so far.
We're Irish roots, so lots of potato.
People say with rapid inflation, it's becoming increasingly difficult to put food on the table.
Who can say no? You know, it's an amazing opportunity to prevent food that should be eaten from going to sort of animal feed or worse, the landfills.
The prices of everything is like crazy, so any chance that we can save a couple dollars, we'll take that opportunity.
Avery, why are you here today? All right. Free produce, and also there's so much here, like I doubt it'll be gone by the end of the day, so I just wonder what happens to it after that.
Heppel says excess produce often gets sold for cow feed. He hopes this event inspires other initiatives to reduce food waste.
And we hope to snowball this into something where all farmers can put out their ugly produce and help feed that their communities.
And it's not just potatoes. Ugly carrots, squash, and even pumpkins, all for the taking. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Surrey.
Today, thousands of people across Canada and around the world hit the pavement for the 43rd annual Terry Fox Run.
Terry Fox is such a person that we look up to in Canadian history. To be a part of that here in the community, I think it's really cool and super important.
Communities including Port Coquitlam, Vancouver, Nanaimo, and Victoria saw people come out in droves ready to walk or run in support of the cause. Terry Fox began his Marathon of Hope in St. John's, Newfoundland in 1980. The run came to an end in 1981 after the Canadian icon fell ill and passed away that same year. To date, the Terry Fox Run has raised more than $850 million for cancer research. Coming up, the Vancouver Canadians ended their seasons as the champions of the Northwest League this weekend. We get a closer look at the team after the break. The Vancouver Canadians ended their season as champions of the Northwest League this weekend. The Seas clinched the position by defeating the Everett Aqua Sox 10-2 last night at Vancouver's Nat Bailey Stadium. With the win, the Canadians are league champions for the first time since 2017 and the fifth time since becoming a Blue Jays affiliate in 2011. Earlier this summer, our Maurice Katz got a behind-the-scenes look at the challenges and triumphs of the Vancouver Canadians. Let's take a look.
The Vancouver Canadians are Canada's last minor league team. They play at Nat Bailey Stadium, which has been home for Vancouver baseball for the last 72 years.
I think the appeal is that it's a social event that you can go, but you've got something that you can focus on. So, I don't know, for someone like me who likes sports but also likes socializing with friends, you kind of got a bit of time to chat. You got some time to focus in on the game, so all around pretty good experience.
Fouled back, it's 0-2.
Oh, watch your head, watch your head.
The game is different for the players than the fans.
It's the right-hander out of Salt Lake City, Utah, Justin Kelly, who's in the game here in the top of the eighth, looking to keep this a 3-3 tie. Kelly taking over for Connor Larkin.
What do you fear? Ooh, that's a good one. Maybe not getting to your potential soon enough, if that makes sense.
Now the 2-0. This one's in the air, well struck to the corner and right. It will go.
It's incredibly hard. This is probably one of the only sports with as many levels as we have. You know, once a player turns pro, they most of the time go to rookie ball or maybe low A, and then they start climbing the ladder. Rookie ball, low A, high A, double A, triple A. There's, you know, a ton of breaks that you need, a ton of bounces you need to go your way, and resiliency when things go poorly. So this might be the hardest sport to go and make it to the top at. And whether you fail, you're going back out there tomorrow. Whether you succeed, you're going back out there tomorrow. And there's a lot of downtime to think about your mistakes and your errors. But yeah, dealing with failure is a big part of this game.
Most of these guys will likely not make it to the major leagues, but then again, crazy things can happen. We've got guys who've come through here who were drafted in the lowest rounds of the draft or maybe signed as a non-drafted free agent. Something sparks their talent, and then it all comes together, and next thing you know, they find their way to the major leagues. Pitchers are going to give up hits and home runs. Batters are going to strike out. They're going to go through slumps. But that's the beauty of this long season where you're playing every day. Every day, every game is an opportunity to write a new story.
He's aboard as the tying run. And now Garrett Spain, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, a ground out, and a pop out to second base.
If you're in professional baseball, you got a chance. So we try to tell these guys a lot. If we have a strike left, we have a chance to win every ball game. And if they're on a roster and they're professional baseball players, they've all got a chance.
You kind of just get up there and everything just goes silent. You're there with the guy throwing at you, and all the hard work, all the effort, all the time missed kind of just drowns out.
2 outs in the ninth. In the air, right field. Back goes Julio Carrion. He looks up and it's
It was an out-of-body experience. It kind of blacked out. I hit it, and I was kind of wishing it was going to go out, hoping it was going to go out, I was kind of just numb and blacked out and just started yelling at the bullpen, yelling at the guys at home plate, yelling at the crowd. So it was an awesome feeling.
You get incredible superhuman feats of strength, of athleticism, of mental ability from guys who are basically normal dudes.
I mean, that's always been the goal. I think it's just to come from, I won't say nothing, but come from so little, I guess, and show other people around, other kids, other high school kids, whatever, that it doesn't matter where you come from, but you can get there.
I haven't done anything like been married or had a kid, so I haven't been able to experience stuff like that are supposed to be exciting. But celebrating with 30 guys at one time, jumping around, is second to nothing. It's great.
Norman Spain in Clarksville, Tennessee. Your boy just hit his 7th homer of the year. A walk-off, 2-out, 2-run homer. 97.
For Spain and his teammates, the journey ahead may seem uncertain. But this moment, they'll remember forever. Maurice Katz, CBC News, Vancouver.
Here we have a live shot of the Port of Vancouver. I'll have your full forecast coming up next.
we're sharing really important information with the public. And I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
All right, it is time now to take a look at our full forecast. Let's begin with the current temperatures around the regions, starting in Port Hardy with 11 degrees at the moment, 18 in Victoria, 13 in Squamish, and 15 here in Vancouver. Moving into tomorrow's forecast, Dease Lake, a lot of precipitation across the province as well. A reminder, some smoky skies bulletins for the more northern regions. Dease Lake, 13 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. Of course, that precipitation and a high of 13 tomorrow. Fort St. John, a high of 15 tomorrow. 13 in Prince George, 17 in Whistler, 19 in Kamloops rather, and Kelowna actually, both 19 degrees. Relatively similar weather in both regions. Sunny with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 17 in Victoria for tomorrow. And here in Metro Vancouver, 18 degrees for tomorrow with a mix of sun and clouds. There is a risk of the precipitation showing up on Tuesday with a high of 17, but then we are going to clear right up for Wednesday and Thursday with a high of 18 and 19. That is your late news for this Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. For news anytime, visit our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Hope you have a great night.